Welcome back. So in this video we're going to be discussing the spirit world struggling to communicate. So last night I was running a circle or a small workshop, I don't know what they call it, at the Pioneer Centre at the Arthur Findlay College for the Friends of Stansted Hall group. They come together once a week and I was invited along to take that class. And there was something that one of the students had said, during a communication, where the person was very quiet. You know, their personality couldn't really engage in a conversation. And I thought, what a great idea for a video. How many people have come across this problem and how simple it is to fix. So I think it's fair to say there's loads and loads of communications that have taken place where we can't get any kind of information out of them, and no one's exempt from this during our development. This has happened to all of us, and it's how we handle this situation that will turn the mediumship around and will turn that communication around and get it in full flow. So as the spirit world join us when we move our intention to the spirit world and we start to engage in this, I have a man with me or I have a lady, and you do maybe the descriptive value of this, you know, the clothes that they wear and all that kind of stuff. And I think there is no value in this, in the clothes that they wear. I don't always wear this black hoodie, I don't always wear this yellow t-shirt. And it will be something along the lines of this man's turned up in a checkered shirt, or you know, he's sitting there in a blue suit. The only time that happens, if it holds any kind of value, is if I was to open that man's wardrobe and all he had was checkered shirts and all he had was blue suits. The descriptive value in that sense is pointless, a waste of energy, a waste of your time and the client's time. The descriptive value is going to be something like he had a scar down his cheek, or he had a tattoo along his forehead. Then that would make sense to give the descriptive value. We then usually move on to something like personality traits. You know, oh, he's outgoing, or he's full of humour, or he's very quiet and he don't really want to talk. Is where the problem arose last night, and this is the whole reason for today's video. The student sat for maybe 10 minutes, I think it was, in trying to get this communication up and running. And I eventually asked, right, who had a problem, what's going on, and so on and so forth. When she put her hand up and said, I just couldn't get him going. You know, he was the kind of man that didn't like talking, so I just couldn't get this communication up and running, which is very normal. We've got a very human way of thinking. We fall into like the trap of empathy. You know, if you're working with a mum sitting in front of you and she's unfortunate enough to have had a very tragic passing of a young child, we fall into this trap of empathy. We feel so bad. We feel like, is there anything I can do to help this lady? She's clearly in a very bad place in her world. And so we fall into this trap of empathy. And what we have to do is put that to one side. I make that sound extremely easy, but it's something that is a shift of the consciousness, a shift of the mind. And you may be accused of being cold, or you know, you have no empathy, or things like that. That's inevitable in this scenario, unfortunately. But what happens is it's only information. That's all it is. They are now in the spirit world, in essence they're spirit, and they have to give you the information that the loved one understands. I can't make a very violent man, for example, a very angelic person with their evidence. I can't say, oh, I have such a loving man here. He comes forward and he gives me a great big hug and he loves me. If you were on the receiving end of abuse or violence in the example that I'm giving you. So we have to give it as evidence. And then once the evidence has taken place, it will shift to the side. And then once that's gone, we can now get on with the communication. This is exactly the same for someone that doesn't like talking. They wasn't outgoing. They were extremely introvert or extremely deep thinking. They like their own solitude. You know, all of these things are just evidence. And once that's taken place, it can shift and the communication can take over. However, we fall into the trap of going, oh God, this guy, he's so quiet, he's going to be a nightmare, because that's our human experience. We all probably have a friend or a relative that you don't really like talking to, or you don't really like being in their company because they are hard work. And it's obvious that at some point one person like that's going to end up being a communicator because they have passed to the world of spirit. So at this point we have to very quickly establish in our mind, we have to almost detach the human aspect of us to then unfold the communication. Okay, so you're a deep thinking man, you don't like conversation, you've got quite a bland personality, let's move it to one side. Now we can get on with more of your evidence. We can talk about more of what you did or what you didn't do while here on earth. And then the communication's up and running. Once I explained this to the student yesterday, I hope that they gained a better understanding that it is only as evidence. If someone's a very difficult communicator here on earth, it can only be as evidence. It's not going to be a difficult communication. And the moment we sort our mind out and we get beyond that restriction that we are placing in there from a human aspect, then the mediumship will pick up and be much freer in the communication that you're trying to deliver. So I know it's only a short video today, but it was something that I thought that needed raising because it happened only last night. And I know a few people gained something from it, or certainly helped their communication when it was their turn. So I hope it gives you something to work with or understand. And you've just got to fill in the ingredients there, and you can make your communication much easier. So if it's violent, you haven't got to be frightened of the violent man. It's just evidence. Now it can move on. If they're quiet, you've said it. Now the communication can take place. You've just got to fill in that blank there, and the mechanic is the same across the board. So like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you aren't already, and I'll catch you lot in the next video.